There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise of the world becomes too loud, yet the silence of their own thoughts becomes even louder. It is in that silence where transformation begins. Not when everyone is watching, not when applause is given, but when you decide to stand up for yourself alone. Walking alone is not a sign of weakness. It is a declaration of strength. It means you have stopped waiting for approval, stopped chasing validation, and started believing that your vision matters even if no one else sees it yet. At first, this journey feels heavy. You may look around and see others moving with groups, supported by crowds, guided by familiar hands, and you may wonder if you are left behind. But what you don't realize is that every strong personality, every great achiever, every respected voice in this world once stood exactly where you are, alone, uncertain, but determined. When you walk alone, you begin to understand yourself in a way no crowd can teach you. You discover your limits, and more importantly, you discover how to break them. You learn to solve your own problems instead of waiting for rescue. You build emotional strength that cannot be shaken by criticism or failure. The world often misunderstands those who walk alone. They are called different, strange, or even unrealistic. But history always remembers who are brave enough to be different, because following the crowd is easy, but creating your own path requires courage. There is a hidden power in solitude. It sharpens your thinking. It strengthens your focus. It removes distractions that once held you back. And slowly, without you even noticing, you start becoming the version of yourself you always admired in others. Confidence is not built in comfort. It is built in challenge. And nothing challenges you more than standing alone when no one believes in your direction. But that is exactly where greatness is born, because when you rely only on yourself, you realize you are more capable than you ever imagined. And then something powerful happens. The same world that once doubted you begins to notice you. The same people who once questioned your journey begin to respect your results. Not because you changed who you are, but because you stayed true to who you are. That is when the world salutes you. Not because you followed them, but because you had the courage to walk ahead of them in your own way. So if you ever feel alone on your journey, remember this: you are not being left behind, you are being prepared. Prepared for strength, prepared for success, prepared for a life that only belongs to those who dare to walk alone. Because in the end, those who learn to walk alone are the ones the world cannot ignore. Self-reliance is not just a habit. It is a mindset, a way of living, and a silent force that shapes the direction of your entire life. When a person learns to depend less on others and more on their own abilities, decisions, and judgment, they begin to unlock a level of strength that cannot be easily shaken by external circumstances, opinions, or temporary failures. True power begins the moment you stop waiting for someone to guide you every step and instead start trusting your own inner voice, your own instincts, and your own ability to figure things out even in uncertain situations. In life, many people remain dependent because it feels safe, comfortable, and familiar, but comfort often becomes the biggest barrier to growth. When you constantly rely on others for motivation, validation, or direction, you slowly lose the ability to think independently, and over time, your confidence becomes tied to external approval rather than internal belief. Self-reliance breaks this cycle. It teaches you that even if no one supports you, you can still move forward. Even if no one understands your vision, you can still continue building it. And even if no one claps for you, you can still stay committed to your journey. The real transformation begins when you face challenges alone, when decisions cannot be postponed, when problems cannot be delegated, and when you are forced to stand on your own understanding. In those moments, you discover hidden strengths, creativity, problem-solving ability, emotional control, and resilience that you never realized existed within you. Every difficult situation becomes a teacher, and every failure becomes a lesson that strengthens your foundation instead of breaking it. Self-reliance also builds confidence in a very deep and permanent way, not the kind of confidence that comes from praise or success, but the kind that remains even after setbacks and failures. It creates a mindset where you stop fearing mistakes because you understand that mistakes are part of learning, and every step you take independently makes you wiser and more capable for the next challenge. You stop asking, what if I fail, and start asking, what can I learn if I try? Another powerful aspect of self-reliance is freedom dependency, freedom from fear of judgment, and freedom from the need to constantly seek approval from others. When you are self-reliant, you are no longer easily influenced by opinions that do not align with your goals. You develop clarity, focus, and discipline, and your energy is no longer wasted on pleasing everyone, but instead directed toward building your own path. Over time, self-reliance transforms your identity. You stop being someone who waits and you become someone who acts. You stop being someone who follows blindly and you become someone who leads with purpose. The world naturally begins to respect this energy because independence carries a quiet authority. It shows that you are not afraid to stand alone, think alone, and grow alone when necessary. In the end, self-reliance is not about rejecting help, but about knowing that even without help, you are still capable, still strong, and still moving forward. It is the foundation of greatness because only those who can walk alone without losing direction are truly ready to achieve something meaningful in life. Loneliness is often misunderstood as something negative, something to be avoided, feared, or filled with distractions. But in reality, loneliness is one of the most powerful teachers in a person's life. When you are alone, without the constant noise of people, opinions, or external influence, you are forced to face yourself, your thoughts, your fears, your weaknesses, and your hidden potential. This process may feel uncomfortable at first, but it is in this discomfort that true character begins to form, shape, and strengthen. When a person is always surrounded by others, they rarely get the chance to understand who they truly are. Their identity becomes mixed with the expectations of friends, family, and society. But when loneliness enters your life, it removes all distractions and gives you a mirror to see yourself clearly. You start to realize what you truly want, what you truly believe, and what kind of person you are becoming. This self-awareness is the foundation of strong character. Loneliness teaches patience because in silence, everything slows down and you are no longer rushing to match the pace of others. You begin to understand that growth is not instant. It takes time, effort, and consistency. You learn to wait for results without losing hope, and you learn to trust the process even when progress feels invisible. This patience becomes a part of your personality, shaping you into someone who does not give up easily. It also builds emotional strength because when you are alone, you cannot depend on others to fix your emotions or distract you from pain. You learn to sit with your feelings, understand them, and eventually overcome them. Instead of escaping sadness or fear, you face it, analyze it, and grow through it. This emotional maturity is what separates strong individuals from those who are easily broken by life's challenges. Loneliness also sharpens your thinking ability because without outside influence, your mind becomes more focused, clear, and independent. You start making decisions based on logic, experience, and inner understanding rather than pressure or approval from others. This independence in thinking helps you build confidence in your judgment, and over time, you become more decisive and self-assured. Another important lesson loneliness teaches is self-discipline, because when no one is watching, no one is motivating you, and no one is pushing you, you must learn to push yourself. You begin to create routines, set goals, and follow them without external pressure. This discipline becomes a silent force that keeps you moving forward even when motivation is low. At first, loneliness may feel like emptiness, but slowly it transforms into clarity. You start realizing that being alone is not the same as being weak. In fact, it is often the space where strength is built in its purest form. You begin to enjoy your own company, your own thoughts, and your own journey. You stop depending on constant validation, and instead, you start finding validation within yourself. Most importantly, loneliness builds character by making you resilient. It teaches you how to stand firm when there is no support, how to continue when no one believes in you, and how to stay focused when distractions are gone. This resilience becomes your backbone in life, allowing you to face challenges with courage instead of fear. In the end, loneliness is not a punishment, it is preparation. It prepares you to become stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. It builds a character that cannot be easily shaken by circumstances because it was formed in silence, strengthened in solitude, and refined through self-reflection, Confidence is not something that is given to you by others, nor is it something that permanently stays because of success, praise, or external validation. Real confidence is built from within, from your thoughts, your beliefs, your discipline, and your ability to trust yourself even when no one else does. It is a deep inner strength that does not depend on applause, approval, or recognition, but instead grows through experience, struggle, failure, and persistence. In today's world, many people confuse confidence with attention. They believe that if people praise them, like them, or support them, then they must be confident. But this type of confidence is fragile because it depends on outside factors that can change at any moment. The moment criticism comes or support disappears, this kind of confidence breaks down easily. True confidence, however, remains steady even in silence, even in rejection, and even in failure. When confidence comes from within, a person becomes emotionally independent. They stop measuring their worth based on how others see them and instead begin to understand their value through their own efforts and growth. This internal belief becomes a powerful force that keeps them moving forward, even when results are slow, even when people doubt them, and even when the path is unclear. One of the strongest foundations of inner confidence is self-awareness, knowing who you are, what you stand for, what your strengths are, and what areas you need to improve. When you understand yourself deeply, you no longer feel the need to pretend, compare, or compete in unhealthy ways. You become comfortable in your own identity, and this comfort naturally transforms into confidence. Another important aspect of inner confidence is experience. Every challenge you face, every mistake you make, and every failure you overcome adds a layer of strength to your personality. Instead of breaking you down, these experiences build you up, teaching you that failure is not the opposite of success, but part of the journey toward it. Over time, you begin to trust yourself more because you have already survived things you once thought you could not handle. Confidence from within also brings clarity in decision making. When you are not dependent on others' opinions, you become more decisive, focused, and clear about your goals. You stop overthinking every move and start acting with purpose. Even if you make mistakes, you do not lose confidence because you understand that every mistake is a step toward improvement, not a reason to stop. Inner confidence also protects you from negativity. When your self-worth is built internally, criticism does not destroy you, and negativity does not control you. Instead, you learn to filter opinions, take constructive feedback, and ignore distractions that do not serve your growth. This emotional strength allows you to stay focused on your path without being affected by external noise. As this confidence grows, leadership naturally develops. People start to notice your calmness, your clarity, and your ability to stay strong under pressure. You do not need to prove yourself loudly because your actions speak for you. You become someone who leads, not not by force, but by example, someone whose presence itself inspires trust and respect. Ultimately, confidence that comes from within is unshakable because it is not built on temporary things. It is built on self-belief, experience, discipline, and inner growth. It does not disappear in difficult times. Instead, it becomes stronger. It turns ordinary individuals into strong personalities who can walk alone, stand firm, and move forward no matter what challenges life brings. Success is often seen as the destination, but in reality, it is the result of a journey built on independence, discipline, and self-trust. When a person learns to rely on themselves, make their own decisions, and move forward without waiting for constant approval, they naturally create the conditions in which success begins to grow. Independence is not just about doing things alone. It is about thinking freely, acting boldly, and staying committed even when no one is watching. In life, many people delay their growth because they depend too much on others for direction. They wait for guidance, motivation, or permission before taking action. But success does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who decide, act, and persist. Independence breaks this cycle of delay. It pushes a person to take responsibility for their life, their choices, and their future. Once this responsibility is accepted, the mindset shifts from hesitation to action, and that is where real progress begins. Independent individuals develop a different kind of mindset. Instead of asking, "Can I do this?" they start asking, how can I do this? This small shift in thinking is extremely powerful. It transforms fear into curiosity and doubt into problem solving. They no longer see challenges as barriers, but as opportunities to grow stronger and more capable. This mindset becomes the foundation of long-term success. Another important aspect of independence is resilience. When you depend on others, failure feels overwhelming because you expect support every time something goes wrong. But when you are independent, you learn to handle failure on your own. You analyze your mistakes, adjust your strategy, and try again without losing motivation. This ability to recover quickly after setbacks is one of the strongest traits of successful people. Independence also builds discipline because when no one is controlling your actions, you must control yourself. You learn to set goals, follow routines, and stay consistent even when motivation fades. This self-discipline becomes the engine that drives success forward even during difficult times. Without discipline, talent remains unused, but with discipline, even average ability can lead to extraordinary results. As independence grows, confidence naturally follows. When you see yourself making progress on your own, solving problems, and achieving small wins without external help, your belief in yourself becomes stronger. This confidence is not based on words or praise, but on real experience and personal achievement. It becomes unshakable because you have lived through the process of growth with your own effort. Success also follows independence because it builds leadership. Independent people do not wait for instructions, they take initiative. They do not follow blindly, they think critically. This ability to lead oneself is the first step toward leading others. People are naturally drawn to their self-sufficient, focused, and determined because such individuals create stability and direction in uncertain situations. Over time, independence transforms identity. A person stops seeing themselves as someone who needs help to move forward and starts seeing themselves as someone who creates their own path. This shift in identity is powerful because it changes behavior permanently. Actions become intentional, decisions become confident, and goals become clearer. In the end, success is not something that randomly appears. It is something that is built step by step through independence. When you stop depending on the world and start depending on your own effort, mindset, and discipline, success begins to follow naturally because the world ultimately respects those who are strong enough to stand alone, think independently, and move forward without fear, comma. In the journey of life, the greatest transformation happens when a person learns to stand alone without fear. Walking alone is not about isolation. It is about awakening. It is about realizing that your strength was never outside of you, but always within you, waiting to be discovered through silence, struggle, and self-belief. When you learn to walk alone, you stop depending on constant approval and start trusting your own direction. You begin to understand that not everyone will support your vision, not everyone will understand your path, and not everyone is meant to walk with you, and that is perfectly fine. Because true growth begins the moment you choose your purpose over people. The journey of walking alone builds everything that creates greatness: self-reliance, emotional strength, inner confidence, discipline, and independence. These qualities do not develop in comfort. They are shaped in silence, in challenges, and in moments when you had no one but yourself to rely on. And that is what makes them powerful and permanent. At first, solitude may feel heavy, but over time it becomes clarity. What once felt like loneliness turns into focus. What once felt like struggle turns into strength, and what once felt like being left behind becomes preparation for something greater. The world does not salute those who follow blindly. It salutes those who dare to create their own path. Those who are brave enough to walk alone eventually become the ones others look up to. Not because they had the easiest journey, but because they had the strongest mindset. In the end, learning to walk alone is not the end of connection. It is the beginning of self-mastery. And once you master yourself, the world naturally recognizes your strength, your presence, and your journey without you needing to ask for it, comma.